Katerina's breath caught. She'd served in this palace for 6 years and had never once been this close to him, had never wanted to be. Proximity to power meant scrutiny. Scrutiny meant questions. Questions meant discovery. And discovery meant Felix Hawk would finally find her. He hasn't eaten today. The words were barely a whisper, spoken to the darkness of the palace kitchens. Katerina had no idea the Alpha King stood 3 paces away, half hidden in the shadows near the cold storage. She had no idea his wolf had just come violently awake for the first time in years. Alpha King Kevin Mayer pressed his back against the stone archway, every instinct screaming at him to step forward or flee. The scent had been haunting him for weeks. Faint traces in the laundry corridors, fleeting threads in the servants' halls, always gone before he could track it to its source. Now it had a face. Katerina kept her gaze lowered, addressing the night cook with the practiced deference of someone who'd learned to make herself small. Her hair was pulled back beneath a frayed linen wrap, and her dress, simple, gray, threadbare at the hem, hung loose on a frame that missed too many meals. "Please," she said again, softer this time. "Just a little bread, anything." The cook, a broad-shouldered woman named Ingrid, set down her cleaver with a heavy sigh. She'd always had a soft spot for the quiet ones, the ones who never caused trouble. "You know the head steward inventories everything. If the count's off—" "I know." Katerina's shoulders curved inward, and Kevin watched her fingers twist the edge of her sleeve, nervous, exhausted. "He's so small, and he hasn't eaten since yesterday morning." 6 years. That's how long Katerina had been working in the palace laundry, keeping her head down and her son hidden in the servants' quarters. 6 years since she'd fled her pack in the middle of winter, pregnant and betrayed, with nothing but the clothes on her back and a bond scar that still burned on cold nights. 6 years of making sure no one looked too closely at Martin's unusual violet-gray eyes, or the way his presence seemed to quiet the wolves around him. "Wait here," Ingrid muttered, glancing toward the corridor to make sure the head steward wasn't making his rounds. She disappeared into the back pantry and returned with a small bundle wrapped in cloth. Bread, still warm, a wedge of cheese. "Just this once. And Katerina," her voice softened, "that boy's lucky to have you." Katerina's throat tightened. She clutched the bundle to her chest, feeling the warmth seep through the fabric and into her cold hands. "Thank you, truly." She turned toward the corridor, already imagining the relief on Martin's face when she showed him the food, and walked directly into a wall of muscle. The scent hit her first. Pine and cold wind, leather and smoke, clean and sharp and utterly overwhelming. Her wolf, dormant for 6 long years, stirred with a low, aching whine. Strong hands caught her shoulders before she could stumble backward, steadying her as the bread bundle pressed between them. She looked up, and up, into a face she'd only ever seen from a distance during royal inspections. Sharp cheekbones carved from stone, a jaw that could cut glass, dark auburn hair that fell just slightly over her brow, and eyes like molten amber that burned as they locked onto hers. Kevin Mayer, the Alpha King. Katerina jerked backward, but his hands remained steady on her shoulders, firm but not trapping. The bread bundle tumbled from her grip. Kevin caught it before it hit the stone floor. Her heart slammed against her ribs. He knows. He's going to ask questions. He's going to— "You're dismissed," Kevin said quietly, pressing the bundle back into her trembling hands. His voice was low, controlled, nothing like the commanding roar she'd heard echoing through the throne hall during council sessions. "Take this to your son." She stared at him, uncomprehending. No interrogation, no demand for her name or station, just permission. Kevin stepped back, releasing her, and gestured toward the corridor. "Go." Katerina fled. Kevin's wolf snarled the moment she disappeared from sight. Follow her, protect her, claim— No. He forced his breathing to steady, forced his hands to unclench. The scent lingered in the air, maddeningly close and already fading. His chest felt like it was being crushed from the inside. "Your Majesty," Ingrid's voice was carefully neutral, Is there something you need? Kevin turned. The cook's weathered face was unreadable, but her eyes held questions she was too wise to ask aloud. Double the servant rations, he said, effective immediately, especially for those with children. Ingrid blinked. Of course, Your Majesty. He left before she could say anything else. By morning, the palace was buzzing. The Alpha King had been seen in the kitchens after dark, alone, speaking to servants. Kevin ignored the whispers and summoned the head steward. Reassign Katerina from the laundry, he said, keeping his tone businesslike. She'll assist the archivists. Lighter work. Same pay. The steward frowned. May I ask why, Your Majesty? No. He also summoned his head guard. I want eyes on the eastern servants' quarters. Discreet. Report anything unusual. The guard hesitated. Are we expecting a threat, sire? Kevin's jaw tightened. Just do it. Katerina felt the shift immediately. The new assignment, the guards who suddenly appeared on her corridor rotations, never speaking to her, but always there. She didn't know if she was being protected or monitored. Both possibilities terrified her. That evening, when she returned to their small room, Martin sat on the floor near the window, his unusual eyes focused on something in the courtyard below. Mama, he said softly, not looking away, the king smells sad. Katerina froze. What? Martin finally turned to her, his expression far too knowing for a 6-year-old. He smells sad, he repeated, like you. Kevin was crossing the training yard when he heard the snarl. One of the younger guards had shifted partially, eyes golden, claws extended, chest heaving with barely controlled rage. A training accident. Someone had drawn blood. The wolf was surfacing fast. Then a small figure stepped between them. Martin. The child had wandered from the kitchens, clutching a wooden toy horse. He looked up at the snarling guard with those unsettling violet-gray eyes and simply stood there. The guard's snarl died in his throat, his claws retracted, his breathing slowed. Within seconds, he dropped to one knee, head bowed, trembling, not from fear, but from something deeper, submission without command. Kevin's wolf went utterly still. Martin! Katerina appeared from nowhere, grabbing her son's hand and pulling him back. Her face was bone white. I'm so sorry, Your Majesty. He didn't mean to. He's fine. Kevin crouched slowly, meeting Martin's gaze. The boy didn't flinch, didn't look away. What's your name? Martin, the child said simply. Kevin tilted his head. You're not afraid of wolves, are you? Martin considered this with unsettling seriousness. Should I be? Katerina's grip tightened on her son's shoulder. We should go. But Kevin's mind was already racing. Children didn't calm dominant wolves, not without bloodline, not without power. He'd heard whispers from the old packs, stories of children born with the ability to command through presence alone, heirs of ancient lines, legends, or threats. That night, Kevin stood in his study, staring at maps of the territories. Katerina's scent still clung to his memory, Martin's eyes, the way the guard had submitted. Your Majesty, his advisor entered, expression grim. We've received word from the northern border. Kevin looked up. Felix Hawk has been seen near the capital, he said quietly, about a woman and a child. Kevin's hands curled into fists. Mobilize the inner guard. No one enters the palace grounds without my direct clearance. The advisor hesitated. May I ask what we're protecting, sire? Kevin's eyes flashed gold. Everything. Katerina smelled him before she saw him. Cedar and ash. Once, that scent had meant safety. Now it meant danger. Her hands stilled over the linens she was folding in the archive corridor. 6 years. She'd had 6 years of silence, of invisibility. It was over. You're mine, Cat, forever. Felix had said it the night their bond snapped into place, his forehead pressed to hers beneath the winter moon. She'd believed him, believed in the future he painted, a home, a family, a pack they'd built together. But ambition was a hungry thing. When the Northern Alliance offered Felix a path to Alpha, on the condition he presents himself unbonded, unattached, politically malleable, he'd looked at her differently. You're pregnant? His voice had been flat, cold. Felix, Get rid of it. The bond had screamed in agony, but he'd already made his choice. 2 days later, he stood before the council and declared her a traitor. Said she'd tried to trap him with another male's child. Said she'd betrayed Pack's secrets to rival territories. Lies. But Felix had always been a beautiful liar. She'd fled that same night, heavily pregnant, through snow that tried to bury her alive. "Mama?" Katharina snapped back to the present. Martin stood in the doorway, his toy horse dangling from one hand. "Stay close to me," she whispered, pulling her against her side. She moved toward the servants' exit, keeping her head down, her breathing shallow. If she could just reach their quarters. The main hall doors opened. Felix Hawk strode in, flanked by 2 guards wearing Northern Alliance crests. He was older now, harder, his jaw carved with authority and his eyes sharp with purpose. He scanned the hall with predatory precision. Then his gaze landed on Martin. Everything stopped. Felix's eyes widened, his nostrils flared. Recognition and something darker flooded his face. He smiled. "There you are." Felix courted her in the archive alcove before she could run. 6 years, he said, his voice smooth and controlled. "You've been hiding here for 6 years." Katharina pressed Martin behind her, her body a living shield. "You have no right." "I have every right." Felix's gaze slid past her to Martin, cold and appraising. "He's my blood." "You rejected him," her voice shook. "You rejected both of us." Felix stepped closer. "I made a political miscalculation, one I'm now correcting." He tilted his head, studying Martin the way one might study livestock. "He's stronger than I anticipated. Useful." Katharina's wolf snarled beneath her skin. "You will not touch him." "But you don't get to decide that." Felix's smile was sharp. "Pack law is clear. Blood supersedes circumstance. He's mine to claim." From the shadowed corridor, Kevin watched. Every muscle in his body was locked tight, his wolves roaring for violence. Control. Wait. Learn. But the restraint was shredding. Felix turned toward the main hall, his voice carrying with theatrical precision. "I invoke blood rights under Northern Pack law. The child is mine by lineage. I formally claim." "No." The word cut through the hall like a blade. Kevin stepped into the light, his presence filling the space with suffocating authority. Conversations died. Wolves instinctively lowered their gazes. Felix's jaw tightened. "Your Majesty, this is a pack matter, internal law. You rejected your mate publicly. You declared her child illegitimate. You called her a traitor and exiled her." He moved closer, each step deliberate. "You don't get to reclaim what you discarded the moment it becomes valuable." Felix's eyes flashed. "With respect, sire, Pack law. I am the law." The hall went silent. Felix's smile returned, colder now. "Then you're sheltering another alpha's bonded mate and blood heir. The council will want to know why." Kevin's wolf surged, but before he could speak, Martin's small voice broke the silence. "He's not my father." Every head turned. Martin stepped out behind Katharina, his violet-gray eyes locked on Felix with unnerving clarity. "You smell wrong," the boy said simply. Felix's face darkened. "The boy doesn't understand." "He understands perfectly," Kevin's voice carried across the hall, calm and lethal. "You rejected his mother when she was pregnant. You spread lies to protect your ambition. You have no moral claim here, Hawk, only legal posturing." Felix straightened, addressing the gathered council members and witnesses. "Pack law doesn't require morality, Your Majesty. It requires blood, and blood is fact." "Then let's discuss facts," Kevin gestured to the crowd. "Who here witnessed Felix Hawk's public rejection of his mate 6 years ago?" Silence. Then an older wolf stepped forward, gray-haired, scarred, wearing Northern Alliance colors. "I did, Your Majesty." Felix's jaw clenched. "He declared her a traitor," the wolf continued, "said the child wasn't his, said she'd betrayed Pack secrets." He paused. "He did this to secure his position as alpha." Another voice rose. I was there as well. He called for her exile. Kevin turned back to Felix. You didn't just reject her, you destroyed her. Publicly, deliberately. His eyes flashed gold. And now that the child shows promise, you return with blood right? The law. The law, Kevin interrupted, his voice dropping to something deadly, also states that an alpha who falsely accuses his mate of betrayal forfeits bond protection. He let that sink in. You severed your own claim the day you lied. The council murmured. Elders exchanged glances. Felix's composure cracked. You're twisting. I'm clarifying. Kevin stepped closer. You are stripped of alliance standing within this territory. You have no authority here, no claim, no right. Felix's hands curled into fists. The Northern Alliance can take it up with me directly. The hall went silent. Kevin's gaze swept the room before landing on Katharina and Martin. Katharina and her son are under my protection, he said clearly. Anyone who challenges that challenges me. Felix's eyes burned with rage, but he said nothing. Kevin gestured to the guards. Escort him out. Felix didn't leave quietly. You think you're righteous, he snarled, shaking off the guard's grip. You're sheltering her because your wolf wants her. This isn't justice, it's desire dressed up as morality. Kevin's expression didn't change. Remove him. She'll never be safe. Felix's voice echoed through the hall. The Northern Alliance doesn't forget. They don't forgive. You've made her a target by protecting her. She was already a target. Kevin's words were ice. Because of you. Felix lunged. He didn't make it 3 steps before Kevin moved, faster than sight, faster than thought. One hand closed around Felix's throat, lifting him off the ground with effortless strength. The hall gasped. Kevin's eyes burned gold, his wolf bleeding through. You rejected her, exiled her, hunted her? His voice was barely human. And now you dare threaten her in my hall? Felix clawed at Kevin's grip, choking. Felix Hawk, Kevin rang with absolute authority. You are banished from this territory. If you set foot within 50 miles of the capital, you will be executed. No trial, no mercy. He released him. Felix collapsed, gasping. Get him out of my sight. The guards dragged Felix toward the doors. He twisted back, eyes wild. You think you're righteous? You can't protect them forever. The doors slammed shut. The hall erupted in whispers. Council members huddled in shocked clusters. Alliances were being recalculated in real time. Kevin turned. Katharina stood frozen. Martin clutched against her side. Her face was pale, her breathing shallow. She looked like someone who just watched their last escape route burn. Kevin crossed the hall slowly, deliberately non-threatening. He stopped a respectful distance away. Katharina, he said quietly, his voice meant only for her. She flinched at her name. Tell me what you want. Not what you think you should say, not what's safe. His amber eyes held hers. What do you want? The garden was silent except for the fountain. Kevin had brought them here after the hall cleared, somewhere private, away from the council's eyes and the palace's endless whispers. Katharina stood rigid near the stone bench, Martin's hand clasped tightly in hers. You don't have to be afraid, Kevin said quietly. I've been afraid for 6 years. Her voice was barely audible. I don't know how to stop. Kevin nodded slowly. I lost my mate 3 years ago. Not to rejection, to illness. He looked away. I swore I'd never use the bond as a weapon. Never force. Never claim what wasn't freely given. Katharina's breath caught. I know what you felt the moment we touched. My wolf recognized you. Yours recognized me. He met her eyes. But recognition isn't consent. Silence stretched between them. Then Kevin did something no Alpha King had ever done. He knelt. Not in submission, but in equality. I'm not asking you to accept a bond, he said. I'm asking if you'll stay, you and Martin, safe, protected. No obligations, no debts. His voice roughened. Just a choice. Katerina stared at him, this powerful man on his knees before her, offering what no one ever had: freedom. "I don't know how to trust this," she whispered. "I know." Martin's small voice broke the moment. "Mama, I like him." Katerina looked down at her son, this impossible, perceptive child who'd kept them both alive through sheer presence. Martin pulled his hand free and walked to Kevin. He placed his small palm against Kevin's chest. "You smell like home," Martin said simply. Kevin's eyes burned. Katerina felt something crack open inside her. 6 years of walls, of fear, of running. "We'll stay," she said. The bond ignited, not with violence, not with force, but with choice. And for the first time in 6 years, Katerina felt safe. The first morning, Martin ate at the Alpha King's table, not in the servants' hall, not hidden in shadowed corners with stolen bread. At the high table, beside Kevin, with sunlight streaming through stained glass windows. Katerina watched from across the table, still adjusting to chairs with cushions and plates that didn't need to be returned before anyone noticed. Kevin had moved them to rooms in the family wing, spacious, warm, with actual beds and windows that locked from the inside. Safety felt strange, like a language she'd forgotten how to speak. "More?" Kevin offered Martin another honey cake. Martin nodded solemnly, his unusual eyes bright. But the palace had not forgotten. In the council chambers, older wolves murmured about broken protocols. An unmated king protecting another alpha's cast-off? A child of uncertain lineage given royal privilege? "Tradition exists for a reason," one elder said darkly. Kevin's response was brief. "Tradition also said mates could be rejected for ambition. I'm creating new precedent." The council was not pleased. And beyond the capital, Felix's allies were gathering. Whispers traveled through northern territories of humiliation, of vengeance, of a child too valuable to abandon. In the training yard, Kevin watched Martin calm a restless stallion with nothing but presence. "He'll need to learn control," Kevin said quietly to Katerina. "What he has, it's powerful. Others will want to use it." "Or fear it," Katerina murmured. Kevin's hand found hers. "Then he'd teach him strength, not dominance, strength." She looked at him, this king who'd knelt for her, who'd chosen her son as readily as he'd chosen her. "We," she repeated softly. Kevin squeezed her hand. That night, Katerina stood in the doorway watching Martin sleep. Finally full, finally warm, finally safe. But she knew better to believe safety lasted forever. Love had consequences, and Felix Hawk was not a man who forgave. Still, for tonight, her son slept without hunger, and that was worth fighting for.